A Viking would walk into a wall of swords without flinching. Death in battle was a straight road to Valhalla, but there was one thing that could break a warrior without ever touching him. No blade, no fire, just words carved into wood and pointed at his name. The Norse called it nid, ritual shame. And to understand why it could be worse than dying, you need to understand what honor actually was to these people. It wasn't a feeling, it was currency. A man's worth was measured in who would stand beside him in a shield wall, who would feed him in a hard winter, who would marry their daughter into his house. Reputation wasn't decoration on top of a life. It was the life. It decided whether your sons inherited land or begged for it. And nid didn't only come as a pole driven into the ground. Poets wielded it too, nidvisur, mocking verses sharp enough that men were known to fight to the death over a single stanza composed against them. Words, in this world, were never harmless. Lose your name to either weapon, and you weren't just disliked. You were structurally invisible, a man the world had quietly agreed to stop seeing. But the worst version of nid wasn't whispered behind your back. It was built in public, facing your door. It was called the níðstang, a shame pole. The ritual was specific, and the specificity was the point. A horse was killed and beheaded. The head was mounted on a long stake, jaws sometimes propped open as if snarling. Runes were cut into the wood naming the cursed man directly. Then came the part that made it unforgettable. The pole was turned deliberately until the skull faced the home or hall of the man it was aimed at. The message needed no translation. Every god, every land spirit, every traveler on the road knew exactly what you were. One man didn't just suffer this curse, he weaponized it. His name was Egil Skallagrimsson, poet, killer, and by most accounts, one of the most dangerous men in Iceland. King Eirik and Queen Gunhildr of Norway had already taken everything from his family. His brother dead, his father outlawed, his property seized. Egil had no army, no court, no king of his own to appeal to. But he had a horse, a knife, and a coastline facing Norway. He raised a níðstang on the shore. Skull turned toward the king's hall across the water and spoke a formal curse, calling on the land spirits themselves to find no rest until they had driven Eirikr from his throne. What happened next wasn't sudden. It was a slow rot. The warrior, who still came to the hall, but stood a little farther back than before. The ally who sent word he was checking on his lands and never quite returned. The silence at the thing, just half a second too long. When the cursed man's name came up, no decree ever named it. No verdict was read, just absence, accumulating. A man's authority was already finished long before anyone admitted it out loud, because belief was the only thing holding his power up in the first place, and belief, once it starts leaking, doesn't stop. This is the part that should unsettle you. To the Norse, the body was temporary. Even Valhalla was temporary. It would burn at the end of the world, at Ragnarok, along with everything in it. What lasted past that ending was the name, the saga, the story told at the fire, passed from father to son, long after your bones were dust. A níðstang didn't just shame a man while he lived. It reached forward into the only afterlife that actually mattered to the Norse, and made sure there would be nothing there worth remembering. But there's a darker layer underneath even that. Unlike outlawry, a níðstang needed no court, no king, no thing to approve it. Any man with nothing but timber, a blade, and a grievance could attempt to end another man's standing without lifting a weapon against him. Egil understood exactly what he was doing when he raised his against a king. The sagas never confirm whether the curse itself caused anything. They don't need to. Within a few years, Eiríkur was gone from his throne, and history has never settled whether the land spirits answered Egil's call or whether a curse like that simply said out loud what people were already starting to believe. Maybe that's the real horror. Not that the curse worked. That naming a man as finished was sometimes all it took to make it true. Subscribe. The sagas kept records of men who lost everything but their name. We're still digging them up.